The play is our fam. You don't know about our fam? Go look her up on social media. Go look at YouTube. 19-year-old from Spain, 6'6", block shots, runs the floor, rebounds, post up, inside, outside, pop the corn, serve the beer, and it can clean up the mess when you're done eating your meal. This lady is absolutely fantastic.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total, or going into the year with the Patriots, was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
The rise of the prediction markets plus Chris Paul dropped by the Clippers overnight. Front Office Sports Today starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado here at Front Office Sports Studios in New York City, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in just one ETF, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Now, coming up on today's show, the latest on Chris Paul's exit overnight from the Clippers. But first, how Polymarket and Kalshi have taken over the sports prediction market. My conversation with our editor-in-chief, Dan Roberts, in today's main event. Well, prediction platforms Kalshi and Polymarket have become the titans of an exploding new wave of prediction markets with valuations in the billions, partnerships with leagues like the NHL, and some of the biggest troll accounts on social media. So why have these platforms used unorthodox social media strategies to become such big business? And should sports betting platforms like FanDuel and DraftKings be worried about their growth? So let's dive into all of this. Let's bring in FOS Editor-in-Chief Dan Roberts. So before we get into some of the strategies, and there's a lot of them here, obviously, Dan, let's talk a little bit about how these two have exploded so fast onto the scene right now.
Yeah, well, a huge milestone moment, watershed moment, of course, was Polymarket having that Trump would get reelected really before that was bubbling up anywhere. It looked very like it happened based on how people were betting on Polymarket. Oh, don't call it betting, it's predicting, it's prediction markets. But Polymarket really touted that as a win. Now, that was in politics. In the years since, both Polymarket and Kalshi have really exploded in usage, awareness, investment money raised. They just keep raising. Just today, Kalshi raised another $1 billion in funding, bringing its valuation to $11 billion. So both these companies have $10 billion plus valuations. There are people using them, although, of course, Polymarket technically isn't usable in the US, so how are people doing it? You just do it through VPN, but expected to relaunch very soon in the US. Kalshi is in the US. Both have been given the green light by the CFTC under the Trump administration. So shortest answer is it started in politics, and that's still a huge part of their volume, but both have really pushed hard into sports, and their success is pushing all these big dogs who are established in the betting world to say or actually launch prediction markets. DraftKings, FanDuel, Fanatics says it wants to launch one. Crypto.com launched one. Trump's own media company, Truth Social, part of the Trump media company portfolio, is launching one or has launched one. Suddenly everyone wants in, but of course, they're not all going to succeed, right? We can't support 30 different prediction markets.
Well, so we'll get to all of that, which is really fascinating. But I want to talk quickly about the investors, because I believe it's Kalshi that had a huge investment from ICE, who owns the New York Stock Exchange.
Polymarket.
Polymarket. Thank you. what's sort of the genesis as to why big VCs like the New York Stock Exchange see with these platforms compared to the FanDuels and the DraftKings? Like, where do they see sort of the upswing and to invest in these companies?
Well, this really started in the crypto world. I mean, Polymarket is the one that was a crypto native company, and you can only place your bets in crypto. And so a lot of the investors in both are from the crypto space. Kalshi's big dog is A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, which has a huge crypto portfolio. Both of them, now Kalshi is about to start allowing crypto as the form of currency. So they're going more into crypto, whereas that was kind of Polymarket space. So that's why you see a lot of investors from like the Web3 space. And when you look at the social media voice, which we can get into, I liken it to degen culture. It's a degen thing. It's not just crypto people, it's the terminally online. It's the same people who were pushing GameStonk and the stock revolution during the pandemic. So there's a coalescing here of multiple spheres, right? It's the VCs who are pro Web3, crypto. They kind of went hard on all that stuff during the pandemic. AI, those same investors. There's a lot of overlap in the Venn diagrams here. It's sports, it's betting, it's crypto, it's the terminally online, and it's the young, it's young degens.
Okay, so before we get into some of the social media strategies and stuff like that, I believe Donald Trump Jr. is an advisor to both of these companies.
Yeah, which kind of seems like, huh?
Right.
How can you be an advisor to the two main direct competitors?
And then the other thing I think is interesting is the Biden administration had fought for sort of the legalization of these companies for their entire
and fought against it.
And fought against them from being, available for people to use. And basically, they're now allowed to do this because the Trump administration decided to not continue to take up the government's previous case on them. Correct?
That's exactly right. So under the Biden administration, the CFTC is the one that banned Kalshi from operating in the U.S., and then Kalshi challenged that. One, while it was still Biden, the Biden administration said we're going to appeal that ruling, Kalshi's win, and then Trump gets elected.
Right.
And we know that Trump is pro-crypto, pro-tech, rah-rah, all that. Look, just yesterday in the Times, a big profile of David Sachs, the VC turned crypto czar and AI czar. So
very friendly with the White House.
So the Trump administration CFTC said, okay, all good. We are not going to continue that appeal that the CFTC was going to do under the Biden. We dropped the appeal. Kalshi is able to launch in the U.S. again. Polymarket has been explicitly given the green light. They're about to launch in the U.S., and they've been out of the U.S. for 2 years or more. And part of this, too, is that they're buying the argument prediction markets make. And the argument is we are distinct from sports books. We're not sports betting. When you place a bet, don't call it a bet, on whether the Pats are going to beat the Giants on Polymarket or Kalshi, it's actually an events contract.
Correct.
It's like trading futures options, okay? So they liken it more to a financial instrument and say that we're more like a stock exchange than a sports book.
Right.
Even
kinda
if you don't buy that.
Kind of like you're trading futures. Like
Exactly,
normally
and it seems like a stretch, doesn't it? It's like, come on, it's betting. But the CFTC is basically saying, we buy that argument.
Interesting. And also the state-by-state cases here also is interesting because you have states like California, you have Rob Bonta, the Attorney General in that state, saying, look, you are a daily fantasy sports game. You are literally the same thing as gambling and or sports betting. Is that going to be an issue on a state-by-state case basis still, or are they feeling comfortable that they're going to be able to be in all 50 states?
Well, so in the legal sports betting world, the state-by-state landscape is a total mess, and we know that Adam Silver has complained about this and having to deal with the different states. California and Texas are two big holdouts, so they're not legalized. For now, it looks like what the prediction markets are trying to do is basically they're saying that we don't have to comply with those same guidelines because we're regulated by the CFTC. We're over here. We're separate. So the prediction markets think that basically if they're allowed in the U.S., they're allowed in any state. What the sports books that are getting into prediction markets are doing, DraftKings, FanDuel, because they are legal regulated sports books that are also launching prediction markets products, is they are targeting specifically the states that haven't legalized sports betting. So all the states that haven't legalized sports betting, that's where DraftKings thinks it can launch its prediction markets platform that it got from acquiring Railbird.
Right.
So a tangled web we weave, right? And again, my biggest takeaway I give everyone here is, yes, rising tide lifts all boats. Kalshi and Polymarket, they're going head to head, but probably the progress of both is good for the other. It was a huge win for all these companies when Kalshi got its win with the CFTC. And yet, they're not all going to succeed, right? So, like most things, call it a bubble if you want. I didn't say bubble. A lot of new things will launch at once, and then there will be tie-ups. Some will collapse and close. Oh, we didn't succeed. Some will merge. Going to be interesting.
Let's talk about the marketing strategies that these companies.
Finally, yes.
Yes, we've seen these AI-generated advertisements on television, but I think the social media strategy is catching a lot of people off guard. And you mentioned a lot of this in your piece on frontofficesports.com. Specifically, for instance, there's a Kalshi ad of an AI-generated image of Joe Biden in a football helmet and a diaper. Polymarket.
5 of them, but used in their newsletter.
Okay.
But yes.
So Polymarket had an image of WNBA star Angel Reese and NBA player Wendell Carter Jr., who, by the way, are dating.
Yes.
But the social media post said on it.
Yeah, officially.
Yeah, there was a Kalshi social media image of 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey with the caption, "Loves receiving balls." Yes, and this one was interesting too. This was on Polymarket, an image of Toronto Raptors player Grady Dick with the headline,
Dick is growing.
Yeah.
So
why go this route?
Well, and your first reaction might be like, oh my God, right? Or, call it lewd, maybe just immature, and maybe it's some pearl clutching. I think the general gist you get when you talk to them is like, yeah, it's funny, dude. It's like, lol. Like, the trolling is the point. It is very conscious. It's not like, ooh, we're pushing it, and yeah, we know it's edgy. It's like, yeah, we're being, they call it authenticity.
Yeah, but you can.
And I think it depends who you talk to, whether people are, astonished by this. Are you scandalized when you see this? Either you brush it off as kind of immature frat bro humor, or you think it's hilarious and awesome.
So is that targeting a specific audience? Mostly, probably online men who are on social media, white men that are probably on social media.
Yep, who gamble.
But wouldn't sort of you want a business to promote yourselves to the widest general public possible?
Yeah.
That just seems like this would alienate some people.
Well, here's an example. I mean, the very serious parent company of the New York Stock Exchange put $2 billion into Polymarket. ICE, different ICE, not that ICE.
Yeah.
And, how do they feel about Dick is growing?
Well, what does the NHL think about this?
What does the NHL think? NHL, as we know, we deal with them all the time. Among the leagues, very buttoned up, very serious, right? And they're an official partner of both Kalshi and Polymarket.
And of course, we'll have more on the rise of Polymarket and Kalshi when Front Office Sports Today returns.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
You're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I said.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When LeBron James decides he's retiring, it is coming with trumpets blaring, Adam Silver by his side, and he is going on a state-by-state, coast-to-coast tour so that everyone can acknowledge how great he was and give him a parting gift and thank him for his amazing contributions to the NBA.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The play is our fam. You don't know about our fam? Go look her up on social media. Go look at YouTube. 19-year-old from Spain, 6'6", block shots, runs the floor, rebounds, post up, inside, outside, pop the corn, serve the beer, and it can clean up the mess when you're done eating your meal. This lady is absolutely fantastic.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and now more of our look inside the rise of Polymarket and Kalshi with Dan Roberts. Take a look.
The question that I explored in the piece is this social media strategy and voice and trolling and immature toilet humor at odds with their very serious, legitimate business growth? And it depends who you ask, right? I think if you ask normies, they go, oh my God, how can a serious company post this? But their target demographic and user base is the terminally online, young, fratty males who gamble and maybe also who like crypto. And, that's why I talk about the Venn diagram overlap between multiple spheres, right? It's crypto, it's trading stocks on your phone with a swipe of a finger, it's being online on Twitter and Instagram, and it's sending memes to your friend. And it's the culture now. It's internet culture. So I think that, they kind of think, well, the joke's on you. And there's a little bit of political tie in here too, right? Which is that to me has been the tenor of the past few years in politics too, which is go cry about it, wuss. You think you're scandalized by these jokes? Go cry about it, ha ha ha, because we're winning and we're funny, lol.
Is there a way that these prediction markets are news organizations?
They certainly are trying to be. I didn't dive into this as much in my piece, but both also try to post breaking news.
Yeah. Polymarket and Kalshi both tried to predict elections and all of this.
Well, that's that's their whole product. But
Yes.
I mean, even on social media, their official accounts tweet as if they're those accounts that tweet Bloomberg terminal headlines.
Right.
And they'll tweet headlines. Very often, in both cases, they've had things that are just wrong, just fake news. So what are you supposed to think? And they don't seem very apologetic about that. So I don't know. It's all getting mixed and mingled, right? Like, haha, we're joking, and we're saying these two are, but also we're trying to tweet breaking news. And again, it's all just engagement farming. I think there's nothing more serious to it or surreptitious than that. There's no shady secret. It's like, yep, they think it's funny and they think it's working for their companies and for their user acquisition to be funny and troll.
This does harken back to not even 10 years ago, before 2018, before the Supreme Court legalized gambling. DraftKings and FanDuel, and sort of the ride of both of them on a state-by-state
History
basis
repeating.
in terms of the legalities of are they sports gambling or are they just daily fantasy sports? How the similarities between these companies and that? Do you see the parallels?
Absolutely. And DraftKings and FanDuel, very similarly, as you say, state AGs, attorneys general, were going after them in court. This was before 2018 legalization. When they weren't gambling companies, they were DFS, daily fantasy sports. And the states were saying, your fantasy contests look to us like gambling. You're doing illegal gambling operating. And they said, no, it's fantasy and it's a game of skill. It's not a game of chance. It's not gambling. And they were fighting all these tooth and nail legal battles. And then 2018, flip gets switched. Federal, government, Supreme Court strikes down PASPA, which was the ban on sports betting. And common misconception here, that didn't make betting suddenly legal all over, everywhere, instantly. It just meant that now states could legalize sports betting if they wanted. And as we know, many or most states did. 40 states now out of the 50 have legalized. And those two companies instantly moved to be gambling companies. And they also, after being so head-to-head competitors, they announced they were going to merge briefly. That didn't last long. 6 months later, they said, never mind, we're not going to merge. Very similar here, where these two companies, if you talk to people from each, they hate the other and they'll trash the other. But they're basically the same. They're offering the same exact products and they have the same exact social media strategy. The key difference I see is Polymarket is the one that really is a crypto company and was born in crypto.
Because you can only trade on crypto.
And they take great pride in that.
Yeah.
Shane Copland was really a crypto guy before Polymarket. And so, they look pretty similar. Do they eventually merge? Do they sell to a larger company? But of course, now their valuations are becoming plenty big. I mean, we talk about the big dogs as if these other companies, they're becoming the big dogs. So I don't know how this plays out, and I don't know where they'll be in 5 years, but I think they're quickly getting too big and expensive for a bigger player to just buy them.
Okay, so that segues perfectly into our last sort of question here. Obviously, FanDuel, DraftKings getting into the prediction markets now. FanDuel doing that specifically, just announcing that just within the last few weeks.
Yep.
Is there room for all of these players together, the Kalshi, Polymarkets, FanDuel, DraftKings? Do you see a merger happening or something else? What happens here?
Well,
or do FanDuel and DraftKings just continue to stay number one?
Yeah, and not to get too in the weeds, but one thing that's positive for both is some of these bigger players that say they're launching their own are actually doing it using Kalshi or Polymarket's tech on the back end. So, for example, DraftKings acquired Railbird. Railbird was a prediction market, but not in sports. And now they say they're going to launch sports predictions using Railbird. Well, Railbird on the back end settles its transactions using Polymarket's exchange, or settles its odds using Polymarket's exchange. So it's almost like liquidity begets liquidity, right? They've got all these key partners. Crypto.com is launching one. That uses one of the two. And then you've got Robinhood and Susquehanna are launching their own. They're launching their own because they bought a different crypto exchange that, by the way, crypto crazy trivia for you, used to be owned by FTX, which collapsed. So Robinhood and Susquehanna acquired this other thing, LedgerX. They're going to use that to be a predictions market, but Robinhood is a partner of Kalshi on the back end. And by the way, the Robinhood partnership is really key to Kalshi's huge growth in sports, as they had this college football predictions market using Robinhood that Robinhood promoted. So both companies have made a lot of hay thanks to their key partnerships. And that, they're also going head to head in gobbling up partnerships. One's got StockX, they've both got NHL, one's got pickleball, one's got Padel. I mean, it's crazy to keep track of. So they're not all going to succeed. I don't think a big player could really buy them. They're too expensive now with all their funding. So what ends up happening? Does, DraftKings or FanDuel launch something that's a joint venture with one of them? I don't know how it goes, but Ben Horney has done a list of these. We're up to like 10 or 11 or 12 that have either launched a predictions market or stated they plan to. They're not all going to work. In 6 months, there aren't going to be 10, 11, 12, so we'll see.
You mentioned in your story a lot of the partnerships that Kalshi and Polymarket have, specifically the NHL, I think is the biggest of the leagues in there. But
UFC.
Yes,
Polymarket,
UFC.
UFC,
but
big
no,
one.
but no NFL, no NBA.
Right.
Those obviously two of the most betted on sports out
Huge.
there. Do you foresee a situation where the NFL or the NBA partner with one of
Well,
them?
I can
or do
tell
they
you-
stay with their
Yep.
traditional partners, the
Yep.
DraftKings? and
Well,
FanDuel?
you're certainly right, Demand. This is a great point. I didn't get into this in the story, but it's a great follow-up. The NFL, of course, was the longest holdout against legalized sports betting, and then once the water was clear, they were biding their time. They went all in, and they're just as deeply enmeshed and tied to all this as all the big leagues. But they really held out. Protect the shield. They're so image conscious. I can tell you for sure that the NFL does not love these social media posts, and that they would be very hesitant to get in bed with Polymarket or Kalshi if these type of social posts continue. There's just no way. Christian McCaffrey loves getting balls, and the post about the cop at the Southern Carolina game, and it said he's an old or what is it? I mean, it's in there. I think we showed it. So I would be surprised. NBA could go either way. The NHL is a major get for Kalshi and Polymarket, but it's, the smallest of the big four, right? So a big domino to fall would be MLB or NBA or NFL, making a partnership. But this is the whole tension here that I think is so fascinating, is the social media strategy and the voice and the image and the serious business momentum.
Do you think they have to amend that social media, that messaging, if it gets them an NFL?
I don't see either of them changing it anytime soon.
Because it goes against
it would be
the
an admission.
authenticity.
Yes,
of
it would be an
who they are.
admission that it was immature and that now it's time to grow up. And they both see this as like, no, we're cool. We're in touch with internet culture.
Interesting. For more on Dan's reporting and Ben Horney's reporting, you can go to frontofficesports.com. Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And stay with Front Office Sports for more on the business and culture of sports.
Let's play our game of buy or sell. Let's get to the quarterbacks for next year. Mac Jones will be an NFL starter to begin next season. He's looked great. Brock Purdy has not. Buy or sell?
You look through the NFL here. Miami, Jets, Cleveland, Raiders. I'm just going
Arizona,
up by division by division.
Minnesota.
Arizona, definitely. Minnesota, definitely.
Raiders.
I know the Raiders. I mentioned
Can
the Raiders.
you just say buy and move on, please, to the next question? Because
It's a buy.
it's a buy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a buy. It is a buy. He's right. He'll definitely be starting with somebody there, right? He has had a nice season. He'll start with somebody. Jets.
Buy. Gardner Minshew was a starter in the NFL year after year for the next guy in waiting. I mean, this keeps happening. You think that Mac Jones is not going to be a buy? All right. Daniel Jones will finish the season as a better fantasy quarterback than Justin Herbert of the Chargers. Both players, George, have slipped quite a bit in November here.
Broken fibula. No, he's not going to finish better than Justin Herbert. I don't know if he's going to finish the season. You got to think if they were playing better, maybe he was sitting out a week or two. But they've been struggling, trying to win that division. Big games now against Houston, that they're sort of pushing him in there. No. I know the offensive line for the Chargers is horrific. I get it, but no, I'll say Justin plays a little bit better.
I'm buying it. I don't like what I see with the Chargers at all. Can't run, can't throw, can't play defense. Feels like Harbaugh's getting a little
Broken
desperate.
fibula.
It's not a tibula. It's a fibula. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, fine.
I don't know that to be true. Okay. It just sounded good.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. In football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable technology, advanced analytics, AI, and more, that same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. And Invesco QQQ gives you access to the innovators who are rethinking the world, so let's rethink possibility. Well, in a surprising move overnight, Chris Paul posted on Instagram just after 3 a.m. Eastern Time that the Clippers informed him that he's no longer on the team. He was actually sent on a plane back to LA from Atlanta, where the Clippers will play on Wednesday night. So let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau for more. So Colin, what do we know about why Chris Paul is off the team right now?
We don't know much is actually the answer there. President of the Clippers, Lawrence Frank, said that reiterated that it's not Chris Paul who's to blame for the team's slow start to the season. Clippers are 5-16 and have the second worst record in the Western Conference. It's not Chris Paul's fault, according to Lawrence Frank, but that's pretty much all we know. What we do know is that a lot of other things are happening to a free-falling organization, right? They're 2 months removed from a Pablo Torre report about salary cap circumvention, alleged salary cap circumvention surrounding Kawhi Leonard, and owner Steve Ballmer is now involved in a lawsuit from former investors in Aspiration. We know that, and we know that the team has struggled to start the season on court. And we also know that they will likely not have their draft pick, which could be a first pick in the draft. They are currently would have a top 5 pick or top 5 odds for the first pick, and that would go to the 21-1 Oklahoma City Thunder. Another, result of that infamous trade now that got them Paul George and ultimately Kawhi Leonard, but they gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, and the Oklahoma City Thunder could have, I think, almost 4 first-round picks in this upcoming NBA draft. So how is this going to work with the Clippers from a salary cap perspective? How much are they going to be able to sort of pay out his contract? How is this going to sort of work with the roster?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have the salary cap experts coming out, the Bobby Marks of the world, the Keith Smiths of the world, essentially saying that, well, first of all, Chris Paul signed a 1-year, $3.6 million minimum contract, veteran minimum contract in July. He is not eligible to be traded until December 15. So that's still a couple of weeks from now. But the problem is that the Clippers are hard capped, theoretically hard capped to the first apron. They can't necessarily waive him and sign another player because of that. So they're probably going to look for trade options first and foremost. But trading a 40-year-old on a minimum deal who has already said that he's going to retire at the end of the season might not be very enticing. So it's likely that they could also explore a buyout. But Keith Smith also indicated that a buyout might not be an option just because minimum contracts don't normally get bought out. So we might see this kind of either maybe one team just takes a swing and offers maybe a second-round pick for CP3, or we see this kind of play into January when it's more likely that there's going to be a little bit more flexibility from the Clippers. They might need to wait for CP3's contract to kind of prorate into this first apron.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning what maybe comes next here because, as you mentioned, Chris Paul already said that this was going to be his last NBA season. Do you expect him maybe to play at all this year, or have we basically seen the end of him in his playing career?
I mean, that's a question that I think Chris Paul's probably sitting down and maybe it's either a flight or in his house right now thinking about, because I'm sure he thought that, he would be ending his career with a team that he's considered the greatest player probably in their franchise's history. And that was the one bright spot they had this year, was that they could retire or be in the retirement tour of CP3, one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. And now they don't have him. And I'm sure he thought that was the case when he signed with the team in July. So I think Chris Paul's probably weighing that option. And if the organization is willing to do right by him, then they'd probably talk to him about where he'd want to go. But considering what's happening right now, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Colin, what happens now with the Clippers? Obviously, they're going to figure out the situation with Chris Paul, but as you mentioned, they have a first-round pick that's going to go to Oklahoma City. Do you almost see that they're going to shed the remaining parts of their roster and basically trade off any assets that they have for a rebuild?
Yeah, I mean, the big one would probably be James Harden, right? One of the best floor raisers in NBA history. You know, he's already been disgruntled in media interviews so far this year, talking about how, the team's kind of a mess.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Colin Salau, for us. Thank you, Colin. And with the last little bit of time we have left with you, let's tell you what we're watching on the Tube tonight. A lot of college basketball. Number 6 Louisville, who's 7-0 versus number 25 Arkansas. That's at 7:15 Eastern time on ESPN. Plus NC State and Auburn. That game at 9:15 Eastern on ESPN. And then on the ice, we got a game between the Mammoth and the Ducks. That is at 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT and HBO Max. And that's going to do it for this edition of Front Office Sports Today. We'll be back with you tomorrow.